and they say, okay, Greg, withdraw, dismiss the divorce. We're getting back together. And those are really my favorite cases where I get fired. How many people say getting fired is their best thing? But that's, goes to the heart of my soul.
Hello and welcome to the Attorney Post, where we interview attorneys at the top of their game in the various legal fields to help you stay on top of the latest legal trends. Because as we always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. I'm your host, Justin West, and let's get into this. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Attorney Post, where we discuss what's going on in various facets of the law with attorneys at the top of their game to help you navigate the ins and outs of various legal fields and jurisdictions. Because as I always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Today, I'm joined with Greg Quimby of the eponymous law office of Greg Quimby PC. How are you doing today, Greg?
Doing great.
Awesome. We're going to jump over, as always, really quickly. This is Greg's site, gregquimby.com. Link in the description below. If you are in the Colorado Springs area and you need an attorney that specializes in family law, divorce, mediation, or appeals, you can call 719-212-4227 or just go to gregquimby.com. And we're going to talk a lot more about his law firm and what he's doing there here in just a few minutes. Before we do that, as always, we're going to jump over and read from one of our sponsors. Our first sponsor today is Rocket SEO from hundreds of customers. Are you a business owner that knows being on page one of Google is important, but you're afraid to work with a search engine optimization company because you know that SEO is both expensive and slow? Well, it doesn't have to be. Not anymore. Rocket SEO from hundreds of customers forces you to page one of Google safely and legally through the power of the news media. Rocket SEO utilizes national news media campaigns across a gamut of news sites that simply rank instantly. With Rocket SEO, you can boost your website's ranking in Google in 1 week or less with a simple system that leverages the power of major media companies, news sites, and network affiliates of ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, as well as local news sources from the Boston Herald to the Sacramento Bee and all stops in between across the United States to put you on page one of Google in under a week. One quick example is if you do a Google search for soundproofing in Western Canada, you'll find Hush City. They're dominating page one. They're over here. They're the only maps pack that's available, but they're also in the number 1 spot, the number 2 spot, the number 3 spot, the number 4 spot, the number 5 spot, the number 6 spot, number 7, number 8, number 9, and the pictures below, and they're all over page 2, 3, and 4. If you search on Bing or Yahoo, you will see the same thing. To learn more, visit hundredsofcustomers.com/rocket. That's hundredsofcustomers.com/rocket. All right. And I am joined with Greg. So today, again, I'm talking with Greg Quimby of the eponymous law firm, the law office of Greg Quimby PC. It bills itself as a father and daughter practice. We're going to talk about that a little bit because I am curious what it's like working with your daughter. Mr. Quimby's been practicing law with his daughter for multiple years. They have a thriving Colorado Springs law practice. They focus particularly on family law, as I said before. Looks like divorce, mediation, appeals, and family law in general. He's a former police officer with the Maryland Police Department in Prince George's County. He's been a licensed CPA. He's a grandfather of 6. And since passing the bar in, I believe it was 93, he has been practicing law pretty much nonstop and started his own law firm in 98, which means he's going on his, it was at the silver anniversary, be 25 years this coming year in 2023, 25 years of law practice. So congratulations on that. Question number 1, as I always say, Greg, is what did I miss?
That's pretty much it. That's kind of a short history of me. People come to my firm, when they're in trouble. I have dealt with emotional issues pretty much all my adult life, both as a cop and as an attorney, either as a prosecutor or in family law. I had a short respite from that kind of emotional interaction when I was a CPA, and I actually did not enjoy that. It was a good training because a lot of family law situations have to do with dividing assets and debts. And my background, I had 6 years of accounting where we presented all the spreadsheets and profit and loss statements for a major oil company. And so I have an idea of not only how to read a spreadsheet, how to read a profit and loss statement, but I also know where they hide the money. So it's good for, my clients because, I would say 15% of them come in and there's a private company of some kind. And I ask for all the profit and loss statements and I can look them over. I can look at the balance sheets, see how they're depreciating things. And I understand that and can present that to the court, better than a lot of attorneys. Most attorneys don't have backgrounds in accounting, but luckily I do, and it adds something for my clients. But I enjoy the interaction. I didn't like COVID, not that any of us did, but basically I enjoy people sitting across the desk from me and us talking about their problems and me giving them my opinion, solutions to solve their problems. I enjoy that. I also enjoy actually going into the courtroom and being able to look the judge in the face and see the witnesses there, talk to them and everything. That human interaction charges my battery. Some people, it wears them down, kind of introverts. They prefer, staying at home and working remotely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I enjoyed the walk to the courthouse. We're a block and a half south of the courthouse, and we got this building very specifically because I do a lot of litigation and I do go into the courtroom a lot. So those are things that are specialties for me. Now, people would want to come hire my firm because we don't just settle cases. We settle them when we can, because it's my belief that as parents and as former partners who are kind of breaking up their partnership, at one point in time, there was a bond there. There was a love there, and they were helping each other. And those are such precious interactions and relationships. We don't want to destroy that with a knockdown, drag out fight in court. Sometimes it's necessary, but we try to settle cases because there's a bigger picture here, especially when there's kids. We want them to, maybe the kids are only 8 or 9 years old, but 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, they're going to be on different sides of the aisle when that kid walks up and gets married, or they'll be in the same room when they have their first child, things like that. So we don't want to destroy that relationship. I've been with the same woman for 47 years.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Even though I do divorce, I've never been divorced. And I have a couple of kids, and they have long-term marriages too. My son was married in 93. My daughter was married in 2000. They're still with their same spouses because that's the way our family our family culture is we make that commitment and we work on it because you have to work on it every day to keep it.
Yeah.
So I understand all those things. I'm able to help people because I know the law, because I know the courtroom. I usually know the personalities, the judges, the other attorneys, because I've been in this industry for so long, probably longer than most. I think I'm the oldest practicing attorney in Colorado Springs that practices family law.
Really?
Yeah. Well, by attrition. And
yeah.
A lot of people, when we had COVID, all the restrictions, the masks, the WebEx meetings, things like that, a lot of the attorneys who've been doing this for 20, 25 years said, okay, time for me to go.
Yeah.
And they retired or they don't litigate anymore. They'll do mediations or some other things. But as far as I know, I'm the oldest practicing family law attorney in Colorado Springs.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, I know that you happen to have one of the younger practicing attorneys as well on staff, and that happens to be your daughter, Erica. How is it working with your daughter? When did she know that she wanted to be an attorney and follow in Dad's footsteps? Was that something that was just always, did she play attorney when she was a little girl and carry her little briefcase around like she was Dad going into to the office or the court, or is this something that kind of developed over time, or how did that happen? And what's it like working with your daughter?
Well, when my daughter was 10, she's always been very vocal, very logical, has always had the ability to express her opinion and to, I guess, argue successfully. When she was 10 years old, my wife said to her, "Okay, Erica, I can't out argue you. So from here on in, the only answer you're going to get from me is because I'm the mom." And she has been doing that ever since. And however, with me, it was a little different. I do have those abilities. So she and I would have those little tete-a-tetes and, express opinions and try to talk the other one into our point of view. So she's had that since she was 10 years old. Law school was just natural for her. So she came out, and even though I have all the accounting background and degrees and things like that, she kind of gravitated to doing that, and she does all the administrative things, with the hiring and HR. She keeps the books, all those things. Because the thing I enjoy is litigation, dealing with clients, things like that. She's a great litigator. In fact, I think she undersells herself. But her strength is preparation. She'll sit down and prepare a case for 10 hours. And she's so prepared that gives her strength. My strength is a little different. It comes from the years of experience. It comes from the ability to more or less shoot from the hip, take things on the fly. So that's where my strength is. So I don't have to prepare quite as long, but she's a marvelous litigator. She's a wonderful woman, but the most important thing to me is she's a wonderful mother. She has 3 kids, my 3 grandkids. I have 6, but she has 3 of them, and she's marvelous with them. Our family is very lucky. We have very high functioning kids and grandkids, no drug addicts, anything like that. Nobody that had to go through years of therapy. And we do that because we raise our children every day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people stop at 18. You're 18, so I've raised you. Good luck. Let me know how that works out. And, my daughter's 44, and I'm raising her to this day. My son's older than that, and again, I raise him to this day, and that's what parents should do. They should be raising their kids. I know my dad did. He passed away in 2015, but till the day he died, he would still grab my wrist and say, "Greg, here's what I think you should do." And he would give me his fatherly advice, and he was right. He cared till the day he died. So that's the way I am, and I hope my kids will be the same way. They're both excellent parents. I have 6 grandkids, and I have 1 great grandson.
Oh, wow.
But more will come. I have all these wonderful grandkids, and they all attract good mates and make babies and have kids, and we have a wonderful family. And that is my strength as an attorney, to be able to explain to other people that, hey, you can get an extra $5 a month, but is it worth it? So we do, but we litigate. So if it really comes down to it, if the other side's being unreasonable, there's no attorney in town here that thinks that they can just push us around, because we, all of us here at the firm are litigators, and sometimes things don't turn out the way we want it to. So the other thing we do is appeals. And by doing the appeals, we can correct some situations that the court doesn't know. And when we had a COVID, the whole bench, we had like 40 judges. And I would say probably 80% of them turned over in the couple of years we had COVID. It was just like attorneys. They got tired of dealing with some of the problems with COVID, WebEx, things like that, some of the new things. So some of the judges just decided, well, it's time to go. So they retired, and we have younger judges. Good people, nice people, they want to do the right thing, but a lot of them are not as educated in family law. They maybe were criminal defense attorneys, but now they're on the bench. And we are experts in family law in this firm. So we have to start our presentation sometimes with an education to the younger judges so that they understand what the law says, what the law expects of them, and what our clients expect of them. So it's been a challenge, but we're doing real well.
Gotcha. That's fascinating. I've never considered needing to go in and educate the judge as something that would be a common issue, but that's interesting. So let me, we're going to dig into that a little bit more here in a few minutes, but I want to go back and get a little bit more of the info about young Greg and what got him into law. I know that you are a graduate from Boston College. What would you major in?
Interesting enough, I had several majors, and then after my sophomore year, I realized that I really didn't want to major in anything. And so I went to the dean and I said, Dean, do I have to major in something, or can I just not have a major?
General studies?
He said it was that interesting question, looked into it, and turned out there was no rule that you had to major in anything. So I talked him into liberal arts undeclared. I took whatever classes I wanted to. And that was my first, I guess you would say, legal victory. A case was for me. And then I went into doing what I do now. I tell stories, and I tell stories by way putting people on the witness stand, asking them questions, but it's a presentation. So what I did in college is I made films, and this is way back before videos and all that. It was Super 8, and you had that little tiny film there. So I made films, I told stories, and I've done that pretty much all my life, and that's what's required, because you have a 20-year marriage or longer or shorter, and you have 3 hours maybe to educate the judge on what has been going on for the 10, 20 years of this marriage, and what would be the best solution for the dissolution. And you do that by telling a story. And just with any story, you have certain things you want to emphasize, certain things that are maybe not important, you downplay, and you have to understand the ebb and flow of that and where you peak with your presentation. And that's what I do for a living.
Professional storyteller.
Yes.
I think there's something to be said for that. One of the things I've been married for 18 years. I've got 5 kids myself. And one of the things I teach my kids, particularly my high schoolers, is, communication is one of the best skills you can learn in life. Listening, obviously, super, super important, but also the ability to tell your side of something in a way that keeps people engaged, even and wanting to learn the rest of your story. And I think that's within the realm of the legal field a very practical skill to have. So let me ask you a couple of story questions here. I'm sure in your practice of law, we all have ups, we all have downs. Nobody bats 1,000 if you play long enough, right? So let me ask you the fail question first, and then we'll do the success because I like to end on a high note. I'm sure at some point in your practice of law, Greg, you've had something that you would consider a failure. It's something that didn't go according to plan, a judgment that didn't go your way, a client who said something and then did something else instead, whatever it happens to be. But can you tell our audience about a time in your practice of law where you failed, but then what you learned from it and how you carry that forward to this day to help your clients and grow your practice?
Well, you're right. If you are in the game and if you play every day, I had a high school coach, and what he taught me and what I remember to this day is you win some, you lose some, and some of them are rained out, but you suit up for all of them. And I play this every day, and I talk to clients on the weekends, on the evenings, when necessary. So because of that, um, you lose some. And what I look at is, did I do my job? Did I present well? Sometimes the clients don't help themselves. They might come off angry or something like that. But then oftentimes the judges don't quite understand, and that could be my failing. I didn't make that part of the story, didn't emphasize it enough or whatever. So I look at all of those, and there's been times when, and it's really tough, is when two people are here in Colorado Springs and they are raising a child and even agree, okay, we're not in the same household, but 50-50, we share the time equally and we work together. But then one of them needs to leave and go to a different state. That's a tough thing because you basically change the whole dynamic of the parenting time. So instead of the 50-50, you have one parent that has the child most of the year, and you have the other parent that has several weeks, maybe in the summer, but that's about it. And those have been, and I have lost some of those things, but those have been tough cases where either I was unsuccessful in stopping the kids from leaving Colorado, but then the flip side of it is you have the great victories where you're able to keep the child here in Colorado, and that's what's best for the child is where I think that I succeed when I can do that.
Gotcha. I guess you probably also had one of those issues when you had to figure out that you had to educate the just. Things didn't go the right way. Like, all right, we gotta frame this the right way moving forward. But yeah. So let me ask you this then on the flip side. I'm sure that there's certain cases that you've had that you were just absolutely ecstatic about the way they went. I like to call these feather in the cap cases. I actually pulled up for our viewers on YouTube. You can actually go to, you just look up the law office Greg Quimby. They've got 4.2 stars with 64 ratings, which means almost all of those are great reviews. And again, I'm sure a few cases didn't go your way. There may be a couple of reviews in there where people were less than happy, but it looks like overwhelmingly people are very, very happy with the service you guys have been giving them. Can you tell us about a case or two that are the feathers in your cap? The ones that just everything went smashing well, or even turned out better than you thought it was going to turn out, and everything resolved. Or a question I sometimes will ask: have you ever been in the middle of some sort of a divorce mediation process, and then the couple reconciled and got back together? So that's a side question, but I do want to know the answer to that question as well.
Well, I'll quick do that one. My favorite cases is where I get fired and people get back together. That's great. And
Yeah.
people just need to vent some, maybe spend the money and have a battle or two, and then they realize they have more in common than they really knew, and they say, "Okay, Greg, withdraw, dismiss the divorce, we're getting back together. And those are really my favorite cases where I get fired. How many people say getting fired is their best thing? But that's, goes to the heart of my soul. I've been with the same woman all these years, and it's tough sometimes. And I'm sure she would tell you the same thing. But, if you stick with it and solve your problems. But then there's the cases where, for instance, one of the early cases I had in my career is a guy in the service. He and his wife were both in the service. And she was getting transferred. She had a boyfriend, and he wanted the child to stay here in Colorado with him. And we were successful in doing that. And then 15, 16 years later, he was back in town, and, we had lunch, and he sat down and said all the wonderful things that, he and his son have done. His son turned out to be a wonderful man. And I just love hearing those stories. I had another situation where a guy wanted to move to Iowa. He had a lot of family there. He wanted to take his daughter there. Of course, that father-daughter relationship is pretty special to me. And I helped him do that. Now, we didn't win the first hearing or the second, but we won the last hearing. And that's the important hearing to win. And we got him out there, and he sent me a real nice little statuette of a father and daughter. And, he was able to raise her out there in Iowa, and they had horses and different things out there, and a very good family life. So those are very near and dear, touching stories to me. But I've had cases where, a woman married a guy and wanted to take the child. And I tried to tell the judge, well, judge, the father who's staying here is very stable. He has a good job. Leave the kid here rather than let mom take the child. And it was a 50-50 here in Colorado Springs, rather than mom take the child to, California, Arizona, Florida with the servicemen. And Lord knows I treasure our service people. They're great people, and all of us should give them a thanks. And I know I do on a daily basis. And you can't see all the pictures on my wall, but if you could, you'd see there's a bunch of servicemen and women. But the court, went ahead and let her take the child. And of course, every 3 years, her and her serviceman husband, get stationed in a different place. And that instability is hard on kids. And I tried to educate the judge, but the judge just did not want to do what I considered the right thing. And those are tough things.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this, having dealt with successes, having dealt with failures, I assume a lot of clients come in with some preconceived notions about how things are supposed to happen, or the things you can and can't do. What are some of the things that people, if I phrase it this way, what are some of the common myths people come to you believing that you're going to do that isn't really under your purview, or the things that they're expecting that'll happen? What kind of misconceptions about the whole family law process do people bring that you'd like to, if possible, relieve people of those improper ideas?
The biggest myth is that when children reach a certain age, they can decide for themselves who they're going to live with. And I've heard 12, 13, 14, all the way up. And the true answer is 18. When they become adults, then they can decide. But before that, the court has the jurisdiction and the court decides. Now, one of the factors in deciding that the court has to take into account the wishes of the parents, the wishes of the child. But it goes on to say if the child is sufficiently mature. So they don't let the kids necessarily come in and talk to the court and say, hey, this is what I want to do. But so they hire professionals that do the talking for them, guardian ad litems, they used to be called. Now they're child legal representatives. They may express the child's wishes, but that's not the be all end all, because you wouldn't want somebody to be bought off. You know, a child say, hey, if you stay with me, I'll get you a car. It'll be a sports car. And, you know, you don't have to do your homework and things like that. Okay, I want to live with you. But that's not necessarily the best for that child. You know, you want to put the child with the parent who's going to teach them some discipline and to get up in the morning, go to school, and do your homework, and be a success. That's, you know, kind of the optimal. But and the courts have to get, you know, behind that, and the kids can't drive that, because as soon as you say, okay, the kids make the decisions, then the kids are going to get bombarded by the parents. Love me more, and we can't. We're hurting kids to give them that power. So the courts have to explain that to the children and the parents. I don't care what the kid says. I'm going to do what's best for the child. That's probably the biggest myth.
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. And again, it humanizes the whole process. Because I do think that children, of course, very often are probably the biggest collateral damage when it comes to you know, divorce and how everything resolves. And I'm still flabbergasted, but I think it's awesome that you have at least somewhat occasionally, if not more frequently, encountered areas where people do fire you because they get back together. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. Well, here in a minute, I'm going to ask you one of my favorite questions. And this question, I'm going to give you my pen. This is my magic pen. It's a new one. This one actually has my company's name on it. It was a freebie that was sent to me, but it's no longer my eJoy pen that my regular listeners know and love. But with this pen, it is still a magical pen. And it allows you to go in and it allows you to edit laws. Now you can strike a law from the books, you can add a new law in there, or you can just make a change to an existing law. And this can be, Greg, a big law with sweeping ramifications for, you know, all of Colorado or even nationally, or it could be a tiny little law that just annoys the heck out of you. Maybe that law that makes you fill out forms in triplicate 3 times a week, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. So in a minute, I'm going to give you my pen and ask you that question. Before I do that, though, I'm going to jump back over and take a look. We're actually on your site right now. Everyone can see. Again, it's gregquimby.com. Link in the description down below. And there you can see his daughter as well. It's a wonderful picture, and I'll probably leave that up for most of the rest of our conversation. I'm going to jump over really quickly and read from our second sponsor. Our sponsor today is Groove Funnels. If you love spending $5,000 to build a new website, and you love $99 or $199 a month to host on a platform that allows you to sell a product to your potential clients or customers, then by all means, keep doing whatever it is you're doing. But if you're like me, you hate that stuff. And that's why I personally recommend Groove Pages, the all-new, all-in-one website, funnel, sales, marketing platform from internet marketing legend Mike Filsaime. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove to sign up for free and build a complete site at no cost. Really, truly at no cost. This is literally a no-cost app that allows you to build, I believe it's actually up to 3 completely separate websites, fully functional websites. And this really is, it's a Swiss Army knife of various tools for internet marketing. It replaces your Squarespace or your Wix or your WordPress. It'll replace your funnel builder like ClickFunnels or Lead Funnels. It'll replace what you use to buy and sell online, Kartra or Samcart, and lots of other stuff. It has Groove hosting. It's got video hosting. It's got calendar. It's got a webinar and all sorts of stuff. And you can get started for free. Obviously, they do have upsells on the inside, and it's a very powerful service. I've been using them actually for years personally, and I firmly believe in the company. But I like what they're doing, and you could try it for free. Go to theattorneypost.com/groove to learn more. All right, Greg, magic pen time. I'm going to give this to you. What are you going to change?
Probably something that will never change, because it depends on having the money to have the personnel to do this. But in family law, sometimes when there are mistakes made with the children, the typical appeal process is a year long. So from the time that you feel the judge made a mistake, from the time the Court of Appeals comes back and tells you, the judge, yes, you made a mistake, is a year. A year in my life may not be a big time. Maybe in your life it's not. In a kid's life, it is a high percentage of their life when they're.
Yeah.
So if there was a way that we could expedite certain rulings and get to an appellate court that could look at the factors and make a better judgment, it's that would be what I would like to do. Sometimes a judge has, a bad day or a prejudice, things like that. I have a client right now who I think didn't do well in front of the judge because, unfortunately, he has multiple tattoos everywhere. In fact, I told him if I can have one wish, what I would like to do is get some kind of a Brillo pad to be able to scrub all those tattoos off. But I think that seeing him denotes a certain thing in the judge's mind. However, when we go to the appellate court, everything's just on paper. It's what did they say, not how they look.
Yeah.
And I think you can get a better decision and lacking the prejudice of looks, things like that. But it's a year process, and in a year, a lot of things can happen. Kids can, get in trouble or be so set in a certain area that even though the appellate court said, hey, judge, you made a bad decision, you should have done this, it's kind of too late when it comes to kids. Money, that's something else. Usually you can try to rectify that, but kids, we need something quicker to get a quick access to getting things turned around.
Gotcha. No, that makes perfect sense. And I wish there was a way to expedite that process. You're absolutely right about the percentage of life. I actually had a theory about that a long time ago that I've shared occasionally, just with the perception of time, Justin's perception of time relativity theory. But when you're 5 years old, it takes forever for your birthday to come, because when you're 5 years old, a year of your life is a fifth of your life, whereas now a year of my life is 1/42 of my life, and a little bit less than that for you, right? And so the relative same amount would be like 8 years of my life. Taking 8 years to pass is the same as a 5-year-old taking 1 year to pass. And I think you're absolutely right on that. And I wish there was a way to fix that. So let me ask you one more question here. And that's just simply this: if you could go back and give young Greg some advice, and of course, by extension, new attorneys starting out, maybe you even gave similar advice to your daughter, what advice would you give an attorney starting out based on the knowledge you have in legal practice today?
Well, the first rule that they tell you in ethics is that everything has to be about the client, and you do what is for the client. And a lot of attorneys, especially when it comes to criminal defense, they take that to heart, and they think it gives them, and this happens not only in criminal defense, but in all areas of the law, license to push the truth. And I'm being generous there. And whenever you think that you can do that, I think you do the system in general a disservice. The system sometimes doesn't work the way it should. That's why there's an appellate process. But there's another rule that says you have to have a candor to the tribunal. You shouldn't be misleading them, stuff like that. And When an attorney starts to do that, judges talk. So you mislead one judge, and when they go to lunch and they say, hey, so-and-so told me this and it wasn't true, those kind of things get around, and you lose the credibility to be able to represent the other 500 clients that you may have in the next decade. So, being upfront, being ethical and standing up and doing the right thing is very important, because you'll also be able to sleep at night. Do I lose sleep? Yeah. If I get a bad decision, I tell myself, well, I did my job. My client did their job. They testified, they presented well, and the judge didn't do their job. They made a mistake. Those things still hurt and still lose sleep. But overall, I'm proud of the way I've, in my entire career, have been forthright, honest, and expressed to the court and the people that I work with true facts, rather than messing around and pushing the truth around. So that's probably what I would want to instill with any new client or any new attorney coming in.
Gotcha. That's great advice. And I mean, that's just good life advice too. It really is. I think attorney or not, almost anybody can benefit from following that. So 100% I agree with that. Well, Greg, I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've already been very, very generous with what you've given us, but I wanted to say thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today and share your insights on law there. Before we go, I do always like to give my guests the final word. Do you have any final words or parting words of wisdom that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, Justin, I want to thank you for making podcasts like this available so that people understand things behind the attorneys, so they don't think that I can just go in and just get my way, because sometimes attorneys have to say, I understand what you want, but what you want may be not the ultimate decision. If you want peace in your time, you may have to give a little here and there. So it's good for people to understand, attorneys have ways to express their own ideas, and to choose somebody who is dedicated to the type of life you want to eventually have, and not just every little tiny victory in there to hurt the other party. And understand where that's coming from is a good thing. So I appreciate you doing that, Justin.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I appreciate your time. I always like when I leave one of these interviews and I have a better insight on life, or a better insight of humanity, or even just knowing something that makes me smile, like the fact that you get fired in a good way, which is awesome. I love little bits like that. So thank you very much for your time. For our listeners out there, as always, this has been the Attorney Post. I've been chatting with Greg Quimby of the eponymous law office of Greg Quimby. He practices with a number of attorneys, including his daughter out there in Colorado Springs. You can visit him online at gregquimby.com. As always, this podcast does not constitute legal advice, even though we were talking about lots of different legal issues. And if you do have a legal issue, you should always seek the advice of a competent attorney in the area that you have an issue in, who focuses on the matters that you need help with. Obviously, if you're out in the Colorado Springs area, you need a family law attorney, I highly recommend the law office of Greg Quimby. You can give him a call. I'm assuming at least the initial phone call to figure things out is probably free, so you can probably give him a phone call. And again, we'll have that down below, but it's 719-212-4227. There you go, free initial consultation, just to kind of get a sense for what your rights are and what you need to do moving forward. Because as I always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Until next time, thank you guys for listening to the Attorney Post. And as always, of course, you can find us if you're listening to this on the YouTubes. Give us a like, subscribe, a share, and a comment. If you're listening to this on Apple Music or Stitcher or Spotify or any of those platforms, of course, a like, subscribe, share there also helps us as well. And until next time, be safe, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.